my 40-year-old male ex-wife want for me to spend her final days with her. History: I was 10 years old when I first met my ex. Growing up, we were always a kind of trio because she was best friends with my twin sister. We married at the age of 23, having begun dating at 14. However, things turned ugly when she revealed to me that, 5 years after her marriage, she had an affair with her coworker that lasted for a month. She confessed, apparently because the guilt was too much for her. We attempted to sort things out, but after several months of trying, I realized that even though I loved her, I could no longer put my trust in her. She assured me that she would wait for me and show me that I was the only one who still loved me. I wanted to believe her, but sometimes there are just things that are beyond repair. We never had children. I met my current wife, a 38-year-old woman, 3 years after my divorce, and we were married 2 years later. She's my ideal wife, everything and more than I could have ever imagined. My sister informed me that my ex never fully healed. She left her job and is currently employed by a church. My wife tried numerous times to reconcile with me during our relationship, and she assured me on the day of our wedding that she would always love me and no one else. She promised that this would be the last time she bothered me and that she would wait as long it took. At least it seems like she's honest because, according to my sister, she hasn't been with anyone else since. So, the following has occurred recently. After 7 years of marriage, my spouse and I had 2 children, a 3-year-old boy and a 7-year-old girl. My wife went to get lunch, so my sister came over with her own children so the cousins could play. My sister sat me down and filled me in on my ex's condition. She appears to have less than 6 months to live. She declined medical intervention and desires to make the most of her remaining months. That must be the reason Mom and my sister made the extra effort to travel in spite of the pandemic. But she had one wish list item: she wanted to feel like my wife once more. She only wanted me to be around the house, no kissing or sex. She may occasionally be held, but she still resides in the house we once again called home. I promised her I wouldn't act in such a way, as it amounted to emotional deception. My sister would not stop fighting and pleading with me to at least see and talk to her. Without yelling, we continued to argue. Until my wife returned, the children and her oldest daughter were in the adjacent room. After telling her the entire tale, my sister remarked, "I understand where my ex is coming from," even though she appeared unhappy. We had a conversation with my wife after my sister moved out. My wife is aware of every incident involving my former partner. She claims that even though she isn't excited about the prospect, she wouldn't be offended if I made regular visits. I adore my wife more than anything in the world. She is the best thing I have ever experienced. Even in the good times with my ex, she makes me happier than I've ever been. She's aware that I won't lie. There's nothing left over from my ex. I also have no romantic feelings for her. I have nothing against her. Simply put, my affection for her has long ago faded. I'm honestly undecided about it after giving it some thought. The last time I saw her was on my wedding day, and that wasn't a good experience for either of us, so even though I know I owe her nothing, I feel like I could regret not seeing her again. Not if you include the sporadic occasions when I run into her at the grocery store or anything. To be honest, I think she still deserves to leave in peace, even after what she did. However, I'm not positive if this will have an impact on our marriage. Although I believe my wife when she says she's fine with it, I'm not sure if she'll feel the same after it actually happens. Nothing, at all, should put what I currently have in danger. To be honest, I'm not all that excited about going alone. Any suggestions? How should I proceed? TLDR*, in her final months, my cheating ex-wife wants me in her life. My present spouse is okay, but I don't want to take any chances. Edit: I just wanted to clarify that I won't be acting inappropriately or like a husband if I ever do this. I'm just going to see her and have a little chat. My sister claims that all it would take for her to feel like we were married again would be for me to simply be present and eat with her. Before we update, let's review the comments. OP, I really feel sad for your ex, a person commented. She must have spent the last 12 years filled with sorrow and regret due to a single foolish choice she made without carefully considering the possible outcomes. Having said that, please listen to me even though what I have to say may come across as callous because this is her final request. Your spouse sounds extremely wise and angelic. That she and you both feel so secure in your relationship that you feel confident enough to discuss it with her, and that she agrees to this, makes me very pleased. Many families, in my opinion, aim for this kind of bond. Even if you don't feel anything for your ex, this could still put stress on your marriage and have long-lasting consequences. Even though your ex isn't here, you will still have to live with the consequences of that choice. Therefore, I implore you to carefully weigh all of your options and the possible outcomes of this choice. In contrast to what your ex did, you can absolutely think about doing her errands and or scheduling frequent daytime meetings in public spaces like parks if that's what you really desire. The fact that she strayed, you ended up moving out, and she kept the house you both bought makes me laugh, especially since she now wants to play husband and wife with you in the same place. She's counting on you and your spouse to be cool with it. You are a better person than I am, in my opinion, as you acknowledge that you no longer have any feelings for your ex. Another commented, saying, I agree with you, except that a 1-month affair isn't just one dumb decision, rather, it's a 30-day betrayal of the person you've been in love with for about 18 years. Yes, I'm definitely worse than you. Now for the update, a brief summary. I've known my ex-wife since I was 10 years old. She cheated on me, but she's dying and she wants me to be here to see her through to the end. Almost 3 weeks have passed since my last post, and a lot has transpired. Many of you, especially the ones who messaged me about your personal experiences, gave me some really good advice. I want to express my sincere gratitude to all of you. Here's what transpired. I spoke with my wife, as many of you have suggested. After a lengthy conversation regarding the entire affair, I told her that she is and will always be my top priority. I also promised her that I would never behave like her husband, even if I wanted to say goodbye. It would resemble me seeing a friend from my youth or something similar. I also promised her that I would never leave her alone or stay the night. After our conversation, she felt more at ease and was largely cool with the prospect of me meeting my ex again. As you can probably imagine, she felt compelled to say yes when my sister asked, but this time, she was genuinely fine. I thus spoke with my sister, and following a protracted and contentious debate on my responsibilities during the visit, she consented to the limits my spouse and I had established. After a week, my sister and I visited our previous marital residence. It was strange since, even though I was experiencing old feelings again, I wasn't depressed or angry or experiencing anything bad. My ex was waiting for us in the living room, and when I stepped in, she started crying. Even though she was still powerful, you could sense almost instantly that something wasn't right with her, despite what the most of you said. I gave her a big embrace and we spent many hours talking while my sister was preparing lunch. I told her stories about my children and showed her pictures of them. It feels like seeing an old friend you haven't seen in a long time, but to be honest, I wasn't sure how I would feel when I saw her again. There was not animosity or anything such. I took a stroll around the house, and everything was essentially exactly as I had left it more than 10 years prior. It wasn't really my place to comment, but I'm not sure how I feel about our wedding pictures remaining framed and about us having images all over the place. After lunch, the three of us spent the afternoon playing board games. To be honest, it seemed as though we were back in our childhood days, hanging together as a group. It was pleasant. She was upset when I left at around 6, but she understood when I gave her a final embrace. She gave me a small I love you and then expressed her satisfaction that I was able to discover the happiness she was unable to provide. To be honest, I started crying as soon as I read that part. She asked if I could bring my kids the next time, and I promised her I would see her soon. I promised her I would, then I walked out to get my family's supper. When I informed my wife everything that had transpired, she was pleased with the way things turned out. She agreed to let me bring the kids the next time, so I suppose it helped that I brought her favorite cuisine home. All in all, it was wonderful to see her again. I would have regretted not doing so again since I felt like I needed that. I want to express my gratitude to all of the advisors. Don't be too harsh on my ex either, just because she made a mistake and had to pay the consequences doesn't imply she's a bad person. I will not be updating after this. Reddit, thank you very much. Although I couldn't accomplish that. OP, I'm happy that you were able to come to terms with your ex and find closure. We'll start with a short story called Wife Wants to Pay Daughter's Ex-Boyfriend to Date Her Again. Because she is so attractive, our daughter was so conceited that she thought her ex-boyfriend would forgive her cheating with other guys. She's been miserable ever since he left, staying in her room and only going out when absolutely necessary. Next month, she'll be moving into her own apartment, and I genuinely worry about how she'll adjust. Although she is my daughter and I love her, I also believe that she caused this to herself by lying to him. Therefore, I believe it would be appropriate to let her process this and draw a lesson from it. She is more than mature enough to understand that lying has repercussions. However, we later learned that her ex-husband's father had cardiac problems. My daughter really had the audacity to suggest that we could give her ex money so he would date her again, even though they aren't doing very well financially. My spouse is on board as well, claiming that we have extra cash. How can I make her see how absurd this is? Good comments have been made about this. A reader wrote, so your wife wants to pay your daughter's ex-boyfriend to prostitute himself out to her so his dad doesn't die, stated that essentially, daughter came up with the idea and wife is way too receptive to it, already looking at numbers. Another person said, so your wife and daughter are trying to take advantage of the suffering and trauma that your ex and his family are going through in order to manipulate him for their own selfishness and put him in a situation wherein he must suffer if he says no, and suffers if he says yes. I apologize, OP, but do you realize how nasty that sounds, your daughter? What the devil is wrong with your daughter and wife? No, in fact, he should be compensated for having to endure your daughter's infidelity. One can hang those who cheat. How can people be so brutally manipulative and selfish? I'm honestly surprised. I know it's terrible, but they think it's alright, the respondent said. Because of her narcissism, my daughter believes that her ex-boyfriend should feel lucky that a former cheerleader will be paying him to go on a date and have sex with her, despite the fact that she broke his heart. Actually, your wife need to use that cash for your daughter's mental health treatment. It's all for today, then.